Yes, it was correct. I've been going through Tuli's vast accumulated information, and he just had thousands and thousands of books and pamphlets and zines and lots and lots of published and probably just as many unpublished works. And yeah, I moved to New York to move in with Tuli and Samara about a year ago, and this is something that Samara wanted me to read to you. It's something Tuli wrote when he was probably, well, it's an unfinished, unpublished, untitled manuscript. This is a brief chapter from it. It's sort of autobiographical reminiscences of growing up and living in New York, and probably wrote this when he was in his early 20s. So I'm just going to read you this chapter. It's entitled "The Land of Good Humor." And yeah, the subject of the book is it's a fictionalized, but we surmise that it's pretty much all autobiographical to a pretty large degree. So just picture a very young Tuli Kupferberg in the probably late 1930s, and yeah, well, happy birthday, Tuli. That summer he got a job with Good Humor. He was nervous, and the manager gave him a territory in Bay Ridge in a park. He worked on straight commission, 17 to 22%, according to a staggering system. So now he was a peddler like his ancestors had been. At the office they always called him salesman, but on their funny white carts and iron tags said licensed peddler, NYC number 4798. Pushing the cart 2 miles each way was some task in the heat. At first he liked the kids, but then they got on his nerves. There was one Irish family of about 12 kids. But this was a cold neighborhood, these Norwegians. No kids in the streets, quiet at night. They all stayed home, like in the North Country. There was a big brick church on his route. It was beautiful, so perfectly Nordic, brown brick with brown yellow stained glass windows, a touch of blue, so conservative, quiet, refined, spiritual, calm. It had a few Romanesque arches, one central and 2 side. The windows went up into Gothic, then light brown brick, then white roof facing a gable white sandstone. The high Roman arch square glass windows, the brown and white, and then the sky, no cross. The thing dragged on and the job became horrible. He worked 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. These are the hours my grandfather worked. He earned good money, but it wasn't good for those hours. He was doing useless work, no doubt about it, a salesman's job, seeing that the kids didn't steal the cream, taking the coin of the realm, making change. The bookkeeping at night was farcical, and they had one of those coin-counting machines that went club. The manager was a tyrant who made a commission, it was rumored, on the peddlers, salesmen's commissions. He made the men go out on rainy days. Some days Dave would earn $2 after being out for 12 hours. The salesmen liked to cut one another's throats for the better routes, and some of them were averaging 40 to 50, but the branch average was about 30 a week. He got up mornings at 9 and returned home at midnight. He had no time for friends, girls, but most of all, no time to read. He tried reading in the park, but it was hard, the kids always bothering him. He gave away free ice cream to the poor kids. He liked it when, while he was pushing on the way home, some Italian kid he had never seen would come up and laugh and joking say, "Give me free ice cream," and he would give it to him. Because he liked the kids just asking for it like that, and that's the way it should be. He figured out how absolutely useless his job was, how refrigerators could be placed on the street corners or in parks, serviced once a week or every few days, and people could come and take their favorite ice cream. Free, of course. Free, free. Let the whole world be free. Each day he would go a different way, but the best way lay along the Italian street, next to the railroad yards. Each house, poor houses, had its garden, its vines and tomatoes and farmers, old men hoeing, and lots of kids running in the street hollering. It was funny. He wore a white uniform, Sam Brown belt, ensign's cap, insignia, and the erstwhile assistant manager told him, "And we like to give our customers a salute." He gave a short, snappy one. David nearly burst out laughing, but he needed the job, so he gave one. "Like this?" he asked, snapped sharp to attention and saluted. "That's it," said the assistant manager, and those were his last words when he left the garage that day. "And remember, we give him that salute." David snapped into it and left. On the job, he would wear his hat sideways for the girls, and then backwards. He put his jacket on backwards. He would cock his hat at a 90-degree angle, sidewise, and then salute as if his face were where the peak of the cap was. He got a big kick out of that. Oh, this was America, the land of good humor. Why do I always feel an alien here? What have I to do with this, David said. That day he walked into the good humor office and looked about him. All day long, the workman works like a slave, goes home to his stinking flat, eats, beats his wife, falls dead asleep and hollers, "I'm happy, I'm an American." And the rabbi said as he snored, "Good evening, good humor." And they gave him a booklet called "Making Good with Good Humor." Your problems are our problems. No human hand touches a good humor from the time the plant, like it's said in the automat, untouched by human hands. And how the loader picked up the one fallen on the floor and gouged out the dirt with his finger. It was frilled coconut, and he could do it. Also untouched by human hands, and the sugar and the chock full of nuts had stamped on it in green little bags. Untouched by human hands. Oh Lord, a country. One day he could stand the job no longer, so he quit. Then in succession he became a messenger, stamper in a leather goods firm, general hand in a knitting mill, a fancy plastic button place, luggage worker. A messenger, he would walk the streets. And as he would walk the streets of the city, he would see torn branches and leaves and beans and tomato seeds in the streets and orange pits and watermelon seeds and bush branches and tree branches and torn flowers. And he would pick those up and plant them and scatter the seeds on earth so they would grow. And he planted the torn branchlings. And he planted more and more until they became too many for him. And he cried, "Oh Lord, oh Lord." And the field of cicadas, thousands of them stuck in the grass, the shells, and some had molted successfully, and the shell remained, and hundreds were caught and died there, and he saw them, and he cried, "Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord." He couldn't keep a job longer than 2 weeks, and the only halfway constructive job, the sweater knitting mill, he got fired when he refused to carry 2 bundles of yarn at a time. New York, the parasite city, in his messenger job, he visited all the towering office buildings around 42nd Street. The titles on the doors sickened him. Lawyers, accountants, dentists, with B's, salesmen, insurance offices, advertising agencies, colossal ones, buyers, importers, exporters, thousands, colossal hives of parasites. New York lived off the rest of the country, all these people doing useless work, throwing away their lives. In the fall, he went back to school with $200. This would keep him with scrimping for about 5 months. And then he would have to go out into the city again and find some money and do something which society feels worthwhile and rewarding, like making a profit selling hot chocolate or advertising soya flakes or bartering condoms at a spanking profit. So that's Tuli's reminiscence of being a workman.